Hey everybody, today we're going to talk about the aversion hindrance, which includes overcoming anger, frustration, agitation. I do want to take a pretty deep dive into this topic and first of all introduce you to what this category called the aversion hindrance is, all of these emotions, how they show up in our lives, why they show up, ways of working with them. I want you to leave with a completely different perspective on these emotions than maybe you ever have before, and with tangible strategies and ideas that you can right away implement in your life. But before we jump in, I do want to say this is a very new channel, so you might be new here. Welcome. I am a certified life coach and mental health counselor, trying to help as many people as I can. So if you do like this video, hit the like button and would love to have you subscribe. As I said, I'm at the beginning of all of this YouTube thing. Also engage in the comments. What I love about these comments is that we can take something like this video and use it as a conversation starter and just continue building off of it. Aversion is one of the 5 hindrances, which are universal. They are a way of talking about the human condition. The 5 hindrances come from the Buddhist tradition, though I'm not a Buddhist and we're not really looking at these hindrances in that context. Aversion is like a mood state that can feel like anything from subtle resistance and agitation all the way to real rage and reactivity. But you can think of these hindrances, all of them really, like weather patterns passing through us and constantly changing. When one or more of the hindrances is present, it tends to cloud our judgment. It's hard to have clarity of mind. So let's take a look at what's really going on here. And I want to give you a very powerful resource that I often use with my clients and they find to be extremely helpful. It is a mindfulness-based tool created by Dr. Kevin Polk. It's called the matrix diagram. It's a way of mapping out what's really going on here and you can use it with any of the hindrances, but we'll map out aversion and you can see how it applies. But I love this diagram because it's great for not only self-awareness, but it gives us some direction in terms of working with the hindrances. So every moment of every day, you are experiencing things, and you're always experiencing life in 2 ways. You have, in this moment right now, watching this video, your 5 sense experience of this moment, what you can see, hear, touch, taste, and smell. And you have your mental experience of this moment. This is your inner life, your thoughts, emotions, urges, things that I don't know about unless you're willing to tell me. And here you are in the middle, and anytime you want, really, you can notice both of these experiences as they're happening. You can also notice your own behavior and which direction it's taking you. You can notice if your behavior is taking you toward what you ultimately want in your life, who you ultimately want to be, what you ultimately care about, or if it's taking you away from that. And so again, you're here in the middle, and you can notice your actions, which way they're taking you, and you can notice your experience of the moment. So the aversion hindrance can be put down here in the bottom left quadrant. It is a mental experience, it's happening within you. I don't know that it's happening unless you tell me, and it feels pretty threatening when it's present. So I want you to think about whatever it was that brought you to this video today, what kinds of emotions show up for you around this issue. And I'll write some of the aversion emotions in the bottom left here so I can give you some ideas. And then I want you to think about when your mind gets clouded by this aversion hindrance, what does it start saying? And write down all of the thoughts that show up when these emotions are present. So these thoughts and emotions are seemingly getting in the way of something that is important to you or someone that is important to you. So whatever that is, I want you to put that in the bottom right quadrant. It's something that is important to you and I don't know about it unless you tell me, and it's on the toward move side because you really care. Now, when aversion is showing up, you may not care, or you may temporarily stop caring about these things. But like I said, hindsight is 20/20. So what is it, or who is it that you ultimately care about that becomes difficult? So over here is what you care about. And when the aversion hindrance shows up, all of these thoughts and emotions show up, it starts to cloud your judgment. And when you get hooked by aversion, you start potentially doing things to compensate that in hindsight you later regret. So up here in the top left quadrant, we can put all of those kind of away move behaviors. These are things that if you and I sat down together and watched your actions on a video camera, we could pause the camera and point out. So I'll write some ideas down up here that are pretty common when the aversion hindrance is present. Now here's what I want to show you, which is one of the reasons I love the matrix so much. When we start doing this stuff, we're really doing it because we're hooked by aversion. It's not because that's who we are as a person, right? And because the behavior defies everything we want to be about, it leads us into this loop where we end up back down here with more difficult stuff showing up. It can lead to more hindrances like sloth and torpor or doubt. But because of the way that we dealt with them, we started to create our own suffering. And like I said, this is the human condition. We all engage in these away moves to some degree. Now, well-being, happiness, productivity, success, all of these things are a byproduct of learning how to unhook ourselves when any of this stuff down here is present and move in this direction instead of engaging in these away moves. This is called being psychologically flexible or taking personal responsibility, right? Becoming response-able in the moment. As a therapist, one of my personal aims is to help you do more of these psychologically flexible behaviors because I know that that's going to have a direct impact on your mental health, your well-being, and your overall quality of life. And like I said, this tool is really powerful, I think, because not only is it great for self-awareness and we can kind of map out what's happening and see it from a bird's eye perspective, but in the moment, as this aversion hindrance starts to roll in, you are here in the middle, right? You can check in, you can notice your five sense experience, your mental experience, how it's changing and what's happening. You can notice your own behavior and whether your behavior is also starting to shift in this away move type of direction. So this is a mindfulness tool, right? Mindfulness is just awareness in the present moment, awareness in the here and now. So it can give you just that little bit of distance when you're in that aversion hindrance, just a little bit of distance to maybe do something different. So the last thing I want you to do is go back down to the bottom right quadrant and write down how you would like to ideally be in this situation. So these aren't specific actions, these are more of the characteristics that describe you as a person and how you deal with aversion when it's present. I'll put some ideas down here as well, but these may or may not apply to you. So how do we move in this new direction when the aversion hindrance is present? Well, there are 3 elements that are involved in that process, and they're all happening simultaneously almost. So the first element is our need to be able to acknowledge and accept that this down here in the bottom left is happening. The natural thing that most people do is they want to blame the situation or the other person for the way that they are feeling. And it just instigates this whole vicious cycle that you get into. So from this perspective, we're just looking at workability. The second element is the ability to step outside the struggle with aversion when it's happening. So when aversion shows up, right, we get caught up in it and we become pretty reactive. This reactivity is like a fight or flight response. It's normal, it's natural, it happens to everybody. But that's why stopping is really important for a second. So you can take that minute to shift yourself out. The third element is to take committed action, to do the counterintuitive thing. So if you go back down here to the bottom right corner and you look at the way you wanted to be able to describe yourself in the situation, what kinds of actions would this person be taking? In the top right, you want to fill out all of those preferred toward move types of behaviors that if you and I sat down and played it back on the video camera, we would start seeing you doing. You can set ground rules for yourself and try and commit to doing at least 5 or 10 minutes of these toward move types of behaviors before considering reverting back to your old ways, and just experiment with it and see what happens as a result. So those are the three elements involved in the face of aversion. If you liked the video, of course, like it if you like it. And again, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos from me in the future. Like I said, I will be creating other videos for the other 4 hindrances and putting them in the description box below so that you can check those out. Oh, and engage in the comments. Any ideas that you have, any questions that you have, like I said, these comments are really powerful for building on the conversation and making this platform even more useful for people. All right, good luck. Bye.